Well, moving into our second story of the day, we have Georgia not wanting to require SAT and ACT scores for 23 of the 26 public schools. Many of you know I'm a high school math teacher myself, and I actually think these scores are important for college admissions. That is the question of the day for this segment. Do you think SAT and ACT scores should be a requirement as far as the application goes to get into college? I look forward to reading your responses. I will give you kind of some bullet points that I made on the side in terms of what I think about the importance of the SAT and ACT. But we do have a video clip here that I'd like to show you all regarding this. It is a newscast. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Students applying to college in Georgia likely won't need to submit college admission test scores. Think the ACT and the SAT, a lot of those that we had to take, right? Well, those tests will now be optional at most public Georgia colleges. And the changes come as many colleges here in the Peach State are struggling with enrollment and financial bottom line. So tonight, Joe Ripley has reaction from parents to this new optional test approach.
Leanne Elsa's youngest daughter is set to graduate this spring from DeKalb School of the Arts. She only took the SAT once and did pretty well.
About half the schools were requiring it.
The University System of Georgia Board of Regents is now making college admissions tests like the SAT and ACT optional when applying to a majority of the state's public colleges and universities.
There's kids that have not been identified as having maybe a slight learning difference, and they could be absolutely gifted. And that test is really not an accurate measure in any stance.
There will be.
It is a pretty accurate measure in terms of that, especially if you're a gifted student. The SAT and the ACT, and I'll highlight this again towards the end of the video, is a great objective test. And I'll tell you why. The reason why you want other mechanisms to determine if somebody's eligible to get into the very university of which they are trying to get into, and having certain quotas in terms of the GPA and everything like that to see if they'll actually meet the requirements of that institution, is because you can't always look at your GPA and grades. Grades are usually inflated, and the way that somebody conducts their grading is different from school system to school system, to district to district, even from classroom to classroom in the same school. So the way the teacher grades could definitely have and is inflated 100%. If you have a 4.0 nowadays, odds are it's not realistically a 4.0 or even higher than that. Grades across the board are inflated. So it's not a good objective test in terms of just using grades. And I'll tell you another reason why grades are inflated is a lot of schools are allowing you to retake quizzes up to 100%. Furthermore, they're allowing you to retake the tests up to 100%, meaning students will just go see the test, the assessment. Some of them will score a 0 on it, knowing that they can come back the next day or the following week. They already seen the test. They know exactly what's on it. They already got some of the answers from their friends, and they come in and just retake it up to 100%. So that doesn't mean they learned anything. They just memorized a bunch of stuff. There's no actual conceptual understanding. They're just taking factual and transferring that over just to procedural. There's no actual conceptual knowledge going into the understanding of what they're actually calculating or doing. Furthermore, when you have an objective test, that eliminates that aspect of the inflation of the grades, and it's an objective test because the SAT and the ACT is the same across the board. And so it gives a more holistic and realistic view if somebody's eligible and they understand the material and getting a certain level of grade going into the institution. It's just one variable of many that I think should be applied going into universities, but let's let them continue here.
College testing requirements at the University of Georgia here at Georgia Tech, along with Georgia College and State University in Milledgeville.
You got in anywhere between 120 to 270% as often if you set scores to many schools like Tech.
College test prep tutor Brian Eufinger says SAT and ACT scores can lead to higher admission rates, even at schools that don't require them. He says higher scores can also lead to more scholarships to pay for college.
Parents often think that the SAT and ACT are the most stressful part of the process. I find it ironic because it's literally the exact opposite. If you got a bunch of C's freshman year, you can't go fix those.
The University System of Georgia became less restrictive on test score requirements during the pandemic, but says college applications dropped when testing became required. The latest state budget will cut $66 million from higher education due to enrollment declines and its funding formula.
It's definitely a business decision, butts and seats decision, and it's a financially wise decision. They did that because they're having a hard time filling.
Leanne Eltz says she has no problem with the university system no longer requiring test scores for admission. She has enough to worry about with her daughter yet to make her college decision.
We're still waiting.
In Atlanta, Joe Ripley, 11 Alive News.
So the reason why they're doing this is because they can't meet the quotas of getting people in because people just don't have the grades. And so what they're doing, and we've talked about this at length on the Bald Brad Show, is going, hey, we're just going to do away with the SAT and ACT altogether because it's a business for them. And if you throw that out, then a lot of people that weren't able to apply before are now going to apply. And because the standards are now lower, they're going to get in. The other issue they're having, and they haven't really corrected this yet because a lot of professors have tenure, is that when they get into this university, they tend to have to swap majors because they might be accepted from this application into the STEM field, but then they realize that the STEM field's too hard because they struggle within mathematics. And so they have to switch to liberal arts. And so you see a lot of people switching careers, which inflates those majors like English, and whatever liberal arts, lesbian dance theory, underwater basket weaving, whatever it may be, communications. Like these careers get inflated within those universities because they're all pouring out of the STEM fields because they can't do the mathematics. That goes as far as some of the state schools are actually doing away with entrance exams altogether. And those entrance exams would place you into the correct math and English, of which is where you're supposed to be based on that exam. So if you suck at math, you're going to have to take a bunch of prerequisite classes before you ever meet your catalog for your graduation in terms of the actual classes that will apply towards your graduation. So you could spend 4 or 5 classes within mathematics before you actually enter Math 100. Now, they had a massive influx of people taking those prerequisites. So the classes were heavy down below, but they couldn't pass into the entry level math that they would need in order to graduate. So what did they do? They lowered the bar and said, hey, we don't need to do an entrance exam anymore. You can place yourself wherever you want. And I'm sure you can just fathom how exactly that one works out for everybody. It's very similar to affirmative action. Oh, you're black? Perfect. Come on over. Oh, you scored like 200 points lower than the Asian guy that had the better GPA? Not a worry. We got a diversity quota here. Go ahead and come on in. Oh, you're Hispanic? Perfect. Oh, you're white? Well, we're not going to allow you because we have too many of those whites, even though you struggled. You might have grew up in a low-income area. Your SAT scores were meh. You actually do meet the requirements to get in the university, but because we have a quota, screw you, we're going to take the other guy. It's insane. And by the way, those people that come in through affirmative action, even if it was white, Native American, Hispanic, doesn't matter the race. If you're coming in through affirmative action, there's a good chance that if you come in through the STEM fields, you're not going to be in STEM field. And you actually, through the data itself, you actually score lower and even have a lower GPA than the rest of your peers because you don't belong in that university. That doesn't mean you can't be successful at another university. You're just not going to be successful at that university. So here are some bullet points that I have. Standardized tests such as SAT and ACT are crucial for assessing academic ability and potential, and for ensuring fairness and diversity in college admissions. Diversity amongst those that are actually taking the assessment, the SAT and the ACT, and you actually get more of a diversified portfolio in terms of those applying to your colleges based on that. Furthermore, standardized tests are more objective and accurate than grades or other subjective measures of academic achievement, believe it or not. Furthermore, standardized tests are designed to be consistent, rigorous, and predictive of success in college, and that has extrapolated based on the studies that have been conducted with these tests. Now, you have those people go, well, I'm just a bad test taker. No, you're not. You just don't know the content. That's why when you score well on tests, you score well because you know the content. You're not a bad test taker. That's not a thing. We tell ourselves, that's the thing. I used to tell myself that in freshman and sophomore year of high school. Oh, I'm just a bad test taker, Mom. No, I wasn't. I was just in my room playing video games. In the same way, the same people who are saying that today are still playing video games, but they're on TikTok or Snapchat saying they're studying for 3 hours. If you study for 3 hours and you still fail an exam, there's probably something going on. And it's either up here, it's a learning deficiency, or they're just literally not studying. So if you got somebody saying you're studying for 3 hours and they're still failing, there's something else going on, folks. Something else big time going on. Furthermore, I believe eliminating standardized tests from an admission process would open the door to bias and favoritism in admission decisions, as they are one of the few objective measures of merit that can be used to evaluate applicants. Standardized tests are an important tool for identifying talented students from disadvantaged backgrounds who might not have had access to some opportunities as their more privileged peers, which is exactly what affirmative action tries to do, but they don't use it in the same mechanism as these standardized test scores would be utilized. Meaning you can have somebody, as I mentioned, from a low-income housing or low-income neighborhood that doesn't have the same privileges as somebody in a high housing or high-income area that's going to a nice, say, private school they that paid $20,000 for. And because they're underprivileged, they still scored well on the SAT And now you have two variables of underprivileged scored extremely high, and that will enable them to get in to the very school which you're trying to get into. Again, it's just one variable of many, folks. I'm not saying this is the end all be all analysis of allowing somebody to get into these universities, but removing it all together removes a big aspect of objectivity going into it. Critics, on the other hand, argue that standardized tests are biased against certain groups, such as minorities and low-income students. They say the SAT and the ACT is racist. They say everything is racist. Band-Aids are racist. Exercise is racist. You taking off work, no joke, for just paid time leave is racist. They are now saying math is racist. We covered that here like a year and a half ago. 2 plus 2 does not equal 4 anymore. I'm not kidding. That sounds like a joke. They say 2 plus 2 equals 5. The reason for that, if you as a math teacher, and they're trying to push this in the school systems, the reason why is because this very thing here is that when minority students don't get the answer right, and these nutsos that think that algebra was created by the white man, even though algebra comes from the Middle East and is like thousands of years old, but these knuckleheads in their mind just concoct these crazy ass theories in their mind and they push it upon all of us and then just say that it's racist. So if you have a minority student that says the answer is 5, when we all know it's objectively 4, you still have to count that minority student's answer as correct. And if you don't, then you're racist, because you're racist because you're oppressing him, because the whole milieu, the whole environment, the whole standardized idea of mathematics, the way it's taught, is taught in a holistic view created by the white man and taught by the white man. And it was taught by the white man and created by the white man to oppress all the minority people. It's insane. It's insane. Professors are actually coming out saying that stuff. So that's what they're peddling here. But the other side of it is there's a dispute that this argument maintains that any difference in scores between different groups are due to differences in academic preparation, not inherent bias in these tests themselves. So that's a good thing. That is a good thing. That's what I'm talking about here. Eliminating standardized tests would not necessarily result in greater diversity, as colleges will still need to find some way to evaluate applicants objectively and fairly. So, kind of in summary here, standardized tests are essential, folks, for assessing academic ability and potential, ensuring fairness and diversity in admissions, and maintaining the quality of education. Not diversity based on race. That is not what I'm talking about. So please don't get the two confused. That is the leftist idea. Having diversity literally based on the color of your skin, not the character, not the merit, not how well you did. That's why I said you can have an Asian person with a 4.2, and you can have just pick any other race you want below them. And because they need a diversity based on race, they will take the person with the lower score than the person that actually had the higher score. That should be the one that actually get in the university. That's affirmative action for you. That's what the left wants. I'm saying, hey, why don't we remove race altogether? Look at somebody's merit, look at their GPA, look at what they did outside of school in terms of their extracurriculars. Let's look at the ACT. Let's look at the ACT. Let's have multiple variables that go into this analysis into seeing if somebody's eligible to get into that institution of their choosing. And sometimes that's still not going to be good enough. Welcome to the world. It's called competition. And the left wants to remove competition altogether. They want to incentivize bad behavior, meaning not studying, not taking the time to learn things, not going above and beyond, meaning if your teacher sucks, going out there on, YouTube with thousands of videos for free, or Khan Academy that has thousands of videos for free to actually learn the subject in the same way that somebody's teaching you in the classroom. There are thousands of videos online that have a teacher teaching in real time the very same thing that they're learning in the classroom. They don't want to take the time to learn it. The parents don't want to take time to learn it. I understand things suck. I understand teachers suck. I fully get it. I'm a teacher myself. I'm sure there's people who think that I suck. But what are you going to do? Sit there and go, woe me, things suck. Oh, woe me, this guy's not teaching me, woe me. Or are you going to say, well, screw that. I'm going to sit there and rise above the occasion. I'm going to teach myself. I'm going to find ways to learn this stuff so that I can excel and be successful in life and get into the university I want. What the left wants to do is sit there and incentivize bad behavior. Well, let's lower the standards. Oh, you didn't pass the math class, but the other guy did. Well, screw the other guy because he's not the correct race to get in. But furthermore, we're going to lower the ball here on how to actually get in these universities. And we're going to even lower actually what the requirements are to get in these universities because of the bad behavior that you were doing. Bad behavior means not studying and not having the certain qualifications, again, to get in an institution. That can be for a litany of reasons, by the way. Just because you got bad grades does not mean that you made bad decisions. Maybe someone in your life made bad decisions. Maybe you made a bad decision. Maybe you had an unplanned pregnancy. Whatever it may be, there's a litany of variables that go into this. Furthermore, you want to have a real world idea of incentivizing bad behavior that connects all to this? How about Joe Biden penalizing you for having a good credit score and wanting to increase your interest rates on your mortgage with a great credit score? But if you have a bad credit score, it actually has a lower interest rate than you would if you had a high credit score. Let that one sink in. That's just another example of what the left does of incentivizing bad behavior and hurting those that have good behavior, meaning the guy that studied, the guy that went above and beyond. Even if you had somebody, neighbors, the same household, everything, the same everything, but one studied more than the other, but because based on race or whatever it may be, the one that studied more doesn't get in, the one that studied less does get in, the one with worse grades gets in, the one with better grades doesn't get in, the one that scored higher in the SAT and the ACT doesn't get in, the guy didn't even take the damn thing gets in. It's insane, but hey, all this stuff is nutso according to the left. We're all crazies. We're mega MAGA supporters, all this crazy stuff. So let me know. Question here. Do you think, again, SAT and ACTs should be just one of many variables that should be utilized to get somebody into an institution? Because a lot of people I've been talking to say that it shouldn't. They think that these tests don't show. People are just bad test takers. I just have a hard time believing that you're just a bad test taker. Oh, just messed up. Like, if you know the answer and you know how to solve it, then you're not a bad test taker. You just knew the material and how to solve it. That's all it was. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below, folks. I hope you have a lovely day, and I look forward to seeing you here on the Bald Brad Show. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.